Okay, so this is my run for Biker Heist 1 Down Solo. Going to be trying something a little bit different in this video. Going to be doing post commentary as opposed to a live commentary on the video. I'm just trying something a little different. Wanting to see if maybe this is a better layout for future vids and stuff like that. It's just really hard to focus on certain heists, harder ones especially, like this one in particular. Trying to do live commentary and like be entertaining while also actually just trying to do a good run. So we're just gonna roll with this for the time being. I take this Coke bag right here, not actually because I want to like get the loot, but because I've actually like lost a few runs trying to like detect, or not detect, but point out enemies from behind cover while the Coke bag was there. And would end up trying to take the Coke bag and not pointing out the medic, and then I would die because of it, because I was trying to point out the medic and kept trying to take the Coke bag and getting locked in animation. It wasn't fun. So anyway, I start camping out in this building initially because 2 out of the 3 first objectives are going to be in this building, either to get his personal tools, to get one of the 2 engine parts, or to get one of the 2 engine parts. Or no, not the engine parts, I'm sorry, one of the 2 bike parts. And the last one, I believe, is the engine? Yeah, the last one is getting the engine, and that's in the clubhouse, but more often than not, you're going to be coming out into this building to get either his tools or those 2 bags. Given the truck spawn that we had, which is my preferred truck spawn, by the way, the one where he's on the far end of the map, closer to the exit, I like having the tools as the first objective a bit better because you don't have to drag 2 bags all the way over to him. If you have the close truck spawn to like the garage, I actually prefer having the oh shoot, I keep messing up what it's called. The 2 bags with the bike parts. Simply because you can just throw the bags out and then go on your way. The engine is a good neutral. I like it because you don't actually have to go out to the garage, but where I started most of these runs, actually in the garage, it really didn't seem to matter. So, now comes the wonderful slugfest of just endlessly wading through assaults and trying to get converts as early on as possible. That's a very key thing I noticed in this heist. Even in comparison to some others. And a lot of other heists, having converts is good because it provides decent distraction, and it also allows you to have that bit of extra firepower. But in this heist in particular, it's just so important, at least it felt like it to me, to have those converts, because it was just so easy to get overwhelmed inside this building, because although there are good places to hold out, you don't really get any of those good places until later on in the heist. It is in my personal opinion that this heist actually gets easier, at least day 1, it gets easier as time goes on throughout the heist, just because there's more availability in the areas that you're actually able to camp out. So, for example, if you have to get like the chrome skull, you're able to camp out in that room a little bit better, or down in the bunker where you have, you're able to stock up on ammo and grenades and so on and so forth. I like those areas a lot. So I was able to get my second convert right there. I mean, nothing really fancy going on so far. The mechanic didn't get interrupted all that much during this little cycle, which was pretty fortunate. We got the objective where we have to go back into the garage and open up the secondary door so that the mechanic can come in and take parts off the bike. I actually, I thought this was going to be a terrible objective when I first started doing runs for this heist, but came to find out that it's actually one of my preferred ones to get. Getting over there is a bit of a problem, of course, because it's 1 down and you have to run across an open map. This map is not fun for trying to move around. There are worse ones, but regardless. I actually ended up liking this objective a lot because it was really easy to hold out in that room, more so than I thought it would be. There's a nice hidey spot over in the corner, which you'll see once I get over there in a minute. But as long as you're careful with moving, it's not too bad. Using concussion grenades to time your movements and so forth. I got really lucky there. nobody from across the way decided to shoot me while I was running across, like way across the yard. Here the turret is being extremely annoying and preventing my armor from regenning. I really dislike that quite a bit. Converts were doing a really good job at keeping all the enemies at bay for a long time while this drill was going on. I don't believe in this particular... No, I didn't have drill skills when I was doing this. I didn't think drill skills were going to be that important though, because none of the drills, aside from the one where I have to get the chrome skull, were more than a minute. I mean, the chrome skull drill is a standard drill, but the other ones were just, like for the one for the bunker and then the one for this door, only lasts 60 seconds, so at best having all the drill skills, or at least drill sergeant, only save you, I don't know, like 19, 20-ish seconds or something like that. It just didn't seem worth it when I could put my points in some other places to kind of just clean up the rest of the build, which of course I'll link down below. Nothing too fancy going on here, obviously, just camping out, waiting for the door to open. Like I said, this objective turned out to be so much more favorable than I thought it was going to be. Hiding back in this corner here turned out just to be absolutely fantastic, at least for solo, because most times a convert would end up positioning themselves right there above the stairs, and the other convert would just kind of go do whatever it was he was doing. I had a miskey there, or I just crouched too soon before I threw my grenade. I'm actually not sure which one of those. It was one of the two, though. But regardless, the second convert will either position himself across the room, or he'll just he'll find somewhere to sit. And it's extremely defensible. A funny thing that had happened, somehow the turret, I think, got re-procced on me, or maybe somebody else was shooting at me. I wasn't sure what was happening with my armor right there. But I had lost another good run before this, because a medic had got onto the biker as I was trying to defend him. But I killed the medic with fire, and it actually ended up soft-locking the objective, and the mechanic was constantly in a state of distress where he said he needed to be saved, but there were no enemies there. So even like after I let the wave end and everything, he was still there in distress, so I just had to scrap the whole run. I think I was almost on the... I might have been on the last objective at that point. But all in all, this objective was really preferable, especially since the wave ended right here. I think the turret, for some reason, could still lock onto me even when I was back in the corner. So that was one thing I didn't quite like about it, is I had to pull myself out of the position in order to get the aggro from the turret off of me so I could get my armor to regen. And that happened a few times here. As you can see, my HUD's telling me that my armor is going to take 2 seconds to regen constantly over and over and over again, meaning that the turret is continuously refreshing the armor gate, even though I'm not losing my armor. Although, fortunately, in most of my one-down builds, actually in almost all of my one-down builds, I use Bullseye, so that I can armor gate a bit more effectively. I ran across the room so that the turret would quit focusing on me. Ended up getting me killed right when a whole bunch of enemies started to swarm in. It got a little hairy right here, like 4 dozers, 3 or 4 anyway, just clambered over me in the corner. I started to get a little worried that I was going to get overran, like right here, just as it was ending. But it turned out okay. Definitely took this time to get the heck out of that situation. Got tased. Ended up costing me my down there, even though I was going to be pretty much in the clear if the taser didn't catch me right before I left. I was pretty confident that I was going to make that run, but tasers, man. I was really worried that the run was lost right here, right before I killed that guy with fire. I was just getting really desperate and just spraying into the crowd, hoping I would kill something or anything. Again, got really lucky with some dodge right there as I was going back into the corner, so like one really bad unlucky break as I was coming back into the house, and then 2 very good lucky breaks. 2 very good lucky breaks? Whatever. As I was trying to get to the med bag. So at this point, it's 2 objectives down, waiting on the 3rd one. Just really hoping that everything goes well at this point. Most runs, of course, didn't make it this far. A lot of times what would end up happening, as I said earlier, was really just that I would lose runs before the first objective, trying to get converts and basically trying to do everything before the assault wave really started to hit hard, and it was just it's excruciatingly difficult, or at least it was for me. Just because of how tightly the timing of everything had to go, and how, not really spawn dependent, but how certain spawns interacted with each other, like I mentioned earlier, with having the FAR mechanic truck spawn, and then having to like move 2 biker parts in bags all the way across the map is just extremely cumbersome. It eats a lot of time. So of course at this point I was getting a little nervous. Now I just had to get the seat from the bunker. Again, I didn't really have to wait for, or I didn't have to like protect the mechanic too terribly much. The cops were all being aggroed, like almost directly to me, and weren't spawning in such a way that they were passing by the mechanic before they would come to get me, which I really, really enjoyed. Primarily because that's less time I had to waste, you know, poking out of cover, trying to protect the mechanic, and then ducking back into cover, maybe losing, you know, a down really quickly just because I'm having to like poke my head out through a window to try to save him. So this one run was really fortunate in that regard, above most others. I'm trying to play it super safe right now. I started to realize I was running low on Dragon's Breath locomotive ammo, and I knew the assault was probably getting close to being done, so I wanted to wait till the assault was over before I moved out to the bunker, because I really didn't want to lose the run at this point right now. That guy, like, almost really ticked me off. I thought he was going to down me right there, and I was just like, are you kidding me? After I was, like, so careful to not let this happen. I managed to get over here without going down. I was pretty happy about that. Getting down in front of the bunker, to me, isn't as bad as going down up top before you get down to the bunker, because at least down in the bunker, you're in a bit more defensible of a position, and my converts kind of booked it over here to me, which is pretty fortunate. I guess it's because the assault wave hadn't started in full swing yet, so there weren't as many enemy distractions for them to get caught up on, which was great. So of course at this point just waiting for the drill to finish and trying to kill as many enemies as possible, hoping my converts protect me as much as possible while I'm trying to get the drill repaired. And as scary as this area down here looks, it's really not that intimidating, surprisingly, because if your converts are down here with you, they end up taking a lot of the aggro most times. Or if your converts are up top and you're down there, then sometimes, or most times I found anyway, the enemies would spawn and then get caught up on the converts up top, and really there wouldn't be that many except for a few stragglers coming down to get you while you were down waiting for the bunker to open. Of course, once the bunker is open, it's money, baby. You know what I'm saying? The bunker is fantastic for holding out. So great, especially if you have something that can pierce through shields, basically rendering them useless as they're trying to come in here. You get to restock your ammo, get to get some of your throwables back. It's absolutely fantastic. I love getting the bunker. It's just getting to the bunker is the problem. Now, if I'm not mistaken, when I was at this point, 9 times out of 10, at least one of my converts would end up getting stuck in the bunker. So I would always lose one at this part. In all of my runs, if I had the bunker, one of my converts would get stuck, and then one would follow with me, no matter which exit I took. Although most times I tended to take the latter exit because it was just way safer for me personally. And so I believe at this point, I wasn't really waiting for the assault wave to end or for any sort of big enemy movements to happen. I think I was really just waiting, hoping that a shield would charge in so my converts would die. Or just so my converts would end up dying regardless anyway. Because what I was hoping was that the convert that didn't die would end up coming with me, so I wouldn't lose a convert as I was going back to defend the house before the last objective finished. But my guys were just chilling and really didn't care about anything that was going on. So I just kept playing it safe, trying to resist the temptation of running out and grabbing all that ammo, which of course I failed to do so. I always do. So you see me leave the shield there so he can aggro my converts, and so my converts will hopefully end up dying, or at least one of them. I actually wouldn't have minded if both of them died, simply because I was going to be able to get to the house pretty quickly after going up from the hatch, and I knew that. So I wasn't too worried even if I lost both converts, even though I started to get overrun at this point. Kind of messed up my reload there. I forgot to adjust for the timing of the dry reload because I was still working on the timing from the tactical reload, so I started to take ammo before my reload animation was actually finished, resulting in a complete waste of time. The dry reload on the cavity really tricks me sometimes because I forget how slow it is in comparison to the tactical reload. I was trying to speed up the process of my convert dying a little bit. I'm not doing much damage, like 2.7, maybe 3.1. I wasn't really paying much attention to the damage I was doing, to be quite honest. Yeah, it looks like about 2.8. It's even better because I had a guy right there, so I was just going to go ahead and try to dom him, and I was going to run out this way, hoping that both my converts would follow me out this way.
They're on the roof!
And if I'm not mistaken, I almost ended up getting sniped. Convert clutched it out and killed the sniper for me. One convert ends up following. The one that was almost dead just ends up staying down there anyway. So that was a bit unfortunate. But it ended up working. I completely forgot about giving him the part because I was so nervous about getting back into the house. Because at this point, this is the farthest a run had gotten at any point, and I was like, holy crap, this is actually happening right now. And I was super excited. Heart was starting to pound at this point, especially because I knew that we were going to be getting really close to actually being able to drive the bike, and I didn't have to drive it all the way across the freaking yard. My convert was being the hero, as my converts love to do in good runs, and was actually killing most of the enemies that were trying to aggro onto the mechanic, which was saving me a lot of time, although I was kind of stuck in this position for a second or two. My convert did end up getting kind of stuck there for a little bit. I think he finally works his way inside here in a minute. But now, of course, it's just the waiting game, waiting for the mechanic to be like, okay, you can actually have the bike and go now.
Don't let him come this fucking close to me. Jesus, how the fuck did I get involved in this bullshit? Taser! Got the taser on the ground. Wow. Hey, how am I supposed to do my thing like this? Take care of them. The shield.
Here I got overran by a few shields, and I was getting kind of worried because I thought this was going to be the end of it. But thankfully, Dragon's Breath Loco kind of pulled me out of the fray on that one. I managed to get out without getting downed, surprisingly. My convert still hadn't come in. I think I was saying some quite unkind things to him at this point, wondering why in the world he still wasn't coming in. I think he was getting caught up on some enemies. You know, weird pathing sometimes. Had an unfortunate down right here. I went out to see for a second who he was getting distracted by. I thought this was it, for sure. I know I've said that like a bunch of times, but I was really lucky that I got feigned death right there. Getting a kill was going to be a little, not impossible, but it would have been a little difficult, and I was worried that I was going to end up getting shot all the way down before I could kill somebody. My convert was still fiddling outside, of course. I'm just trying to play it super safe underneath the staircase. Starting to run low on all my ammo at this point. And I was starting to get really concerned, because I didn't know how much longer I was going to be able to hold out without making some sort of crazy run for it. But, of course, right as I think that, I'm able to get the bike, and I just 100% just book it. And then realize that I can't get on the bike just yet. I got a little too antsy. And I tried to make this guy get down so I can get an easy kill off of him. Thankfully, I managed to, and I'm able to, or no, I get feign death, I'm sorry. I'll put my dock bag down, which I had saved up until this point, thankfully. And now I'm able to get on the bike after throwing a bunch of concussion grenades. So please keep in mind, at this point, my hands were like shaking so bad, and I was just audibly saying, please, 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 over and over and over again. I did not want this to be the end of it. I was so worried that one of these guys was going to go complete aimbot mode and just mess my world up and kill me. And actually up here, I can't remember exactly what happened, but like I just got super fidgety, and then I just completely botched driving straight. I didn't miss a turn, I just completely botched driving straight. It doesn't help that the driving in this game's a little weird, but that's neither here nor there. I managed to get it turned around without dying, thank goodness, and drive it to the exit, and thereby completing day one. Which I was super stoked to have happen, because I knew that day one was going to be the only day that, or like day one was going to be the only day that was excruciatingly difficult. I wasn't thinking that day two was going to be too terribly hard. So a funny interjection about what happens next. Let's look at my stats real quick. But a quick interjection. When I was doing the recording for day two, it only took a handful of attempts, 3, 4 at the most, before I got it right. However, what had happened at the very last run was I had, if you notice, the system is working now and there's a chat box, meaning that I'm not actually in solo mode now. This was actually a second day run that I had to do way later, the day that I recorded this. What had happened was, when I actually successfully did the recording for day two, I had forgot to hit the record button on the program that I was using, and by the time I realized it, I was completely finished with the run, and was going to look in the files to see if I could get the, you know, watch the video, make sure everything came out okay, before I realized I didn't get my successful run of day two because I forgot to record it. I had a bunch of failed runs, but I didn't have the good one. So I was extraordinarily upset about that. Of course, I still had the day one footage, so I didn't have to redo that. So instead of taking it upon myself to do the extremely daunting task of doing day one again, I just hit my friend up. And he was more than happy to help me get through day one again. So if you notice, there's actually a little bit of a difference here between doing solo in CrimeNet Offline, which is how I do it, and I think most people who do solo stuff typically do it. I could be wrong, though. But armor regen is longer in non-offline mode. Takes 3 seconds for your armor to regen without skills, as opposed to 2 seconds as it does in solo. So it's only a second in order for your armor to regen. A very minor difference. Only in very clutch circumstances would you notice the difference. I didn't really notice it too heavily when I was running this, just because this day is really straightforward. And it's really, honestly, more luck about whether or not the, you know, which enemy spawns you're going to get at which certain times, and then if the helicopter or van turns don't decide to completely screw you over as you're trying to, like, open doors and stuff, because that happened a few times. So, yeah. Like I said, this was actually not the original successful day two. Yeah, there's the turn. I managed to get back with like barely any of my health left. Thankfully, I had Hostage Taker Basic, allowed me to get a little bit of health back before I started to try to blowtorch the doors open. Because at this point, I realized that it's probably going to be smarter, instead of trying to hang back behind cover and shoot her with the cavity and waste a whole bunch of ammo, it'd just be easier to swan song, get right up in her face and then get a kill. Except I completely disregarded the fact that my convert was probably going to end up taking all those biker kills, which he did, but I got feign death, so it was okay. I was pretty mad at my convert at that moment, but it all worked out, so it was okay. My other day two run was really similar to this one. If you notice, I switched from using the locomotive and I instead switched to using the China Puff because it was a lot easier just to... I wasn't focused on killing enemies and conserving ammo and having a higher crit chance and so on and so forth because of the higher detection that I'm forced to have with the China Puff. However, it's a lot better just for blowing enemies out of the way and getting really quick kills while I'm down so I can revive myself with Messiah, which was what I was more concerned with for this particular day. I'm usually not too concerned about that just because I find the locomotive really good for getting past shields and so forth. I might do more runs where I use the China Puff. However, I really like the locomotive. I'm trying to find more weapons to vary things up. Through that concussion grenade just as kind of a preliminary thing in case there's a whole bunch of enemies up here. At this point I knew I had it in the bag. Super stoked to finally have a day 2 actually recorded. Day 2 isn't really that impressive. I feel like the bulk of the run is actually in day 1, but that was it. Super fun, kind of aggravating, but it all ended up working out. Quick look at my stats again. I might do more post commentary in the future. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching.